You read the title. I'm going to address this latest stupid move, but there is also a good side to it. So watch till the end. So the UN Human Rights Council published a blacklist today of Israeli companies whose crime is doing business in Judea and Samaria. This is a blacklist that aims to boycott Israeli companies. Israel, in response, is freezing its ties with the UN Human Rights Council chief, and I encourage more countries to do the same, especially since they don't defend human rights. They actually defend those that violate it. And it's very shameful that countries use this body to attack Israel instead of defend justice and human rights. But before we begin, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps me to reach more people with the truth, especially when the mainstream media is not on Israel's side, not at all. So the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is publishing a blacklist of 112 Israeli businesses. 94 of them are in Israel and 18 are in other countries. And this is a very stupid decision for two reasons. First of all, when you blacklist an Israeli company in Judea and Samaria, you blacklist a Palestinian worker. Because most of the workers, well, not most, but a lot of the workers that work for Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria are in fact Palestinians. I have visited multiple businesses in Judea and Samaria and I saw how Palestinians are working there. And listen, they are happy. They get higher salaries. They can create better lives. They are not dependent on the Palestinian leaders that couldn't care less about their problems. They only care about themselves. And when Palestinians are working for Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria, it helps to bring and to build an actual relationship between Jews and Arabs, between Israelis and Palestinians, and build a bridge that surpasses politics. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing, that it's really stupid that now an international body is, blacklisting it. Blacklisting places where coexistence is thriving. So the first victims of such a blacklist are the Palestinians. It happened before. Do you know the SodaStream company? They had a branch in Judea and Samaria, but due to international pressure, they had to shut down their branch and move elsewhere out of Judea and Samaria. And Palestinian workers were crying and were begging to stop this move from happening. So this international pressure is harming Palestinian workers. First of all, the international community really messed up this time. Instead of bringing peace closer, they just made it harder and farther. If you honestly want to help the Palestinian people and support their freedom, then build more Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria. It allows them to have good lives. It actually creates more jobs and gives them good lives, because Israel is a blessing to the Palestinian people. The mainstream media is trying to hide it, but Israel is a country that helps Palestinian people. We don't look for conflict with them, and by blacklisting Israeli companies, the international community, especially the UN, only preserves the conflict instead of solving it. The second reason is that if you actually look at the statistics, Israeli companies in Judea and Samaria and out of Judea and Samaria are not actually affected by the BDS movement or by anti-Israel decisions like this one. In 2019, the Israeli exports went up by 3% to $55 billion in the first half of the year alone. The unemployment rate is down to 3.7%. It's one of the lowest in Israel's history. So in other words, anti-Israel decisions don't harm Israeli companies because, let's face it, Israel produces one of the world's best products in the world. Countries don't want to stop trading with Israel because the people love it. But this decision also has a good side, because I actually want to thank the UN Human Rights Council for doing this stupid move, because now there is an online list of 112 businesses, Israeli businesses, that the world can know where to buy products from. Because there are millions of Israel supporters around the world that actually want to support Israel, especially when they know that the products come from the heartland of Israel, Judea and Samaria. So now they can know what are their names, what they are doing, and how great their products are, because they are so good that the UN had to blacklist them. So really, Big thank you to the UN. In my personal opinion, the UN just proved again that they hate the Jewish state. They don't represent justice. They represent interests. And it's such a shame that there's an international body that works against the one country that helps the Palestinian people. And, instead of focusing on actual human rights problems around the world, they focus on the one Jewish state in the Middle East, the one Jewish state in the world. And, just to give you an example of how ridiculous the UN is and how stupid this body has become, last year they appointed Iran to be a judge on the UN's Women's Rights Council or something like that. And Iran, a country where women's rights are being brutally abused, Iran is getting a seat, is getting to judge whether women's rights are being violated, and it's just absurd. The UN is really a useless body that, nowadays, instead of doing good to the world, they just serve interests. And it's really such a shameful thing. I call you to stand up to this hateful decision. Thank you for your support for Israel, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps me a lot. See you next week.